In the winter of 1944, somewhere in the snow-covered forests of Belgium, a German King Tiger rolled forward with the confidence of a battleship. Its 70 tons of steel crushed frozen earth beneath its tracks. Its long 88 gun pointed down a white valley like the barrel of an executioner. Inside, veteran tankers from the Wehrmacht believed they were untouchable. They had every reason to think so. Few Allied weapons could reliably penetrate the front armor of the Tiger II at long range. Fewer still could survive long enough to try. Then, without warning, a shell came screaming out of the morning mist. The impact slammed into the lead Tiger with such force that sparks burst across the turret ring.
If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.
The German commander looked through his optics and saw only empty trees and drifting snow. No Sherman, no artillery flash, no aircraft overhead, nothing. A second shell arrived. This time, it punched through weak side armor and turned the giant tank into a furnace. The Germans had no idea what had hit them. Months earlier, many American soldiers had laughed at the very machine now stalking the King Tigers. It had thin armor, an open-top turret, and a profile that looked awkward compared to the rugged M4 Sherman. Men joked that one burst of artillery would wipe out the crew. Some tankers refused to trust it, others called it a coffin with tracks. But engineers at General Motors and the U.S. Army Ordnance Department were solving a different problem. They knew they did not need the heaviest armor. They needed a gun powerful enough to destroy anything on the battlefield before the enemy could fire back. The result was the M36 Jackson. At first glance, it did not look like a war-winning machine. Its hull was based on earlier tank destroyers, and its turret was open to reduce weight and improve visibility. The open roof gave the crew better awareness and allowed faster communication, but it also left them exposed to weather, shell fragments, and sniper fire. It was not comfortable. It was not glamorous. Yet mounted in that turret was the 90 M3 gun, one of the most powerful anti-tank weapons in the American arsenal. That gun changed everything. In testing, the 90 mm could fire armor-piercing rounds at high velocity and punch through heavy armor at ranges that surprised even experienced officers. Against Panthers and Tigers, it offered a real chance to kill from distances where standard Sherman guns struggled. Combined with improved optics and well-trained crews, the M36 gave American forces a long-range answer to German heavy armor. The story of the M36 began with frustration. During the campaigns in Tunisia and Italy, U.S. tank destroyer units learned that enemy armor was becoming more formidable. German tanks, such as the Panther and Tiger, mounted high-velocity guns and increasingly thick armor. The existing M10 Wolverine was useful, but its 3-inch gun was reaching the limits of its effectiveness. Ordnance officers recognized the danger. Engineers worked quickly to mount the new 90M gun on a mobile chassis. They adapted the proven M10 hull and fitted it with a new turret capable of handling the larger weapon. By mid-1944, the M36 was entering combat in Europe. Many crews were skeptical. Armor thickness still mattered to men who expected to be shot at. The M36 protection was modest. The open turret made winter miserable. Snow settled on the breech and around the crew's boots. Wind cut through heavy jackets. During long waits, men stamped their feet to keep circulation flowing. But once they saw what the 90M could do on the firing range, opinions began to change. A well-trained M36 crew worked like a machine. The commander searched through his binoculars and turret sight. The gunner laid the crosshairs with precise hand controls. The loader wrestled heavy 90 rounds into the breech. The driver and assistant driver kept the vehicle hidden and ready to move. Each man depended on the others. The gun itself inspired confidence. Armor-piercing rounds, such as AK and VAP, offered the ability to defeat tough targets at substantial range. VAP ammunition was limited and carefully distributed, but when available it gave crews a significant advantage against the heaviest German armor. By late 1944, German heavy tank battalions were still feared across the front. The Schwerpanzer Abteilung 506 operated Tiger IIs during the fighting in the Ardennes. These tanks were engineering marvels, but they were also complicated machines. Their weight strained engines, transmissions, and final drives. Fuel consumption was enormous. Narrow roads and icy conditions increased the risk of breakdowns. Even so, when a King Tiger was operational and positioned correctly, it was a terrifying opponent. Its frontal armor was exceptionally thick and well sloped. Its long 88 Emmet KWK-43 gun could destroy Allied armor at extreme distances. Many American tankers learned to fear the first flash from a concealed Tiger. Then came the German offensive through the Ardennes on December 16, 1944. The Battle of the Bulge began in darkness and snow. German forces attacked through the forests of Ardennes, aiming to split Allied armies and seize the port of Antwerp. Roads jammed with infantry, trucks, self-propelled guns, and heavy tanks. American units were surprised, but fought stubbornly in villages, crossroads, and wooded ridges. The weather was brutal. Temperatures dropped below freezing. Fog and overcast skies limited air support. Men shivered in foxholes and vehicle hulls. Engines struggled to start. Lubricants thickened. Snow muffled sound and distorted distance. In these conditions, the M36 found its moment. Tank destroyer doctrine emphasized mobility, concealment, and ambush. Rather than charging head-on, M36 crews used terrain. They hid behind hedgerows, on reverse slopes, and at forest edges. They let German tanks expose their flanks and then fired with devastating effect. One of the most famous examples occurred near Werbemont on December 20 and 21, 1944, when U.S. tank destroyer units, including elements of the 823rd Tank Destroyer Battalion, engaged German armor at long range. In rolling terrain and freezing conditions, M36 crews used their 90 mem guns to disable and destroy several heavy tanks, helping blunt the advance. The Germans were shocked by the accuracy and penetration of the new American weapon. Some reports described rounds arriving from positions that were difficult to detect. The M36's lower profile, use of camouflage, and disciplined fire control made it seem almost invisible. This reputation gave rise to the nickname many veterans later used, the ghost tank. The nickname did not refer to supernatural powers, it referred to a simple battlefield reality. The M36 often fired from hidden positions, struck hard, and then relocated before the enemy could respond. To German crews staring through smoke and snow, it seemed to appear and disappear like a phantom. Imagine the scene at dawn. An M36 sits under white camouflage, netting on a wooded slope. Frost covers the hull. The crew has been waiting for hours in silence. Breath hangs in the air. The commander scans the valley through binoculars. Far below, dark shapes emerge from the mist. Massive turrets. Broad tracks. King Tigers. The commander identifies the lead vehicle and estimates the range. It is extraordinarily long, close to 2 miles. The gunner adjusts his sight. The loader slides a 90 armor-piercing round into the breech. The metal clanks shut. The order is given. The tank destroyer rocks backward as the gun fires. Flame flashes from the muzzle. The shell arcs downrange at tremendous speed. Seconds later, the lead Tiger is struck. At that distance, penetration was never guaranteed, especially against the strongest frontal armor. But battlefield engagements were rarely ideal. Side angles, turret rings, lower plates, and mechanical components all presented vulnerabilities. A hit that did not immediately penetrate could still damage optics, jam the turret, or shock the crew. The M36 fires again. Another impact. The German column halts. Commanders search desperately for the source. Their guns traverse toward empty tree lines. Snow and smoke conceal the American position. Before they can return effective fire, another round slams into a vulnerable section. A giant machine built to dominate the battlefield begins to burn. For the Americans, these moments justified every compromise in the design. Thin armor mattered less when the enemy never saw you. An open turret mattered less when superior visibility allowed faster target acquisition. What looked fragile on paper became deadly when combined with training and discipline. The men inside the M36 were not fearless. They knew that one direct hit from an .88 Emery shell would likely destroy them. They knew artillery fragments could rain into the turret. They knew the cold could numb their hands at the worst possible moment. But they also knew they possessed a gun capable of defeating any German tank under the right conditions. As the Battle of the Bulge continued, M36 units supported infantry, covered road junctions, and ambushed armored spearheads. They were especially valuable when heavy German tanks appeared unexpectedly. Their presence gave American commanders a weapon that could engage Panthers and Tiger IIs with confidence. The engineering achievement behind the M36 deserves as much credit as the courage of its crews. American industry excelled at practical solutions. Instead of designing an entirely new vehicle from scratch, engineers adapted an existing chassis and integrated a more powerful turret and gun. This approach accelerated production and simplified maintenance. Factories could deliver effective vehicles to the front quickly, and mechanics already understood much of the underlying system. The 90M gun itself had roots in anti-aircraft and anti-tank development. Engineers refined ammunition, recoil systems, and turret balance to ensure the weapon could be used effectively in combat. It was not merely a bigger gun, it was a carefully integrated system. The M36 also reflected a broader American advantage, the ability to learn and adapt. When battlefield reports showed that German armor was outpacing current weapons, the U.S. Army responded with new designs, revised ammunition, and updated tactics. The result was not always elegant, but it was often highly effective. German crews respected this adaptability. Many Tiger II commanders still trusted their frontal armor, but they understood that no tank was invincible. Mechanical failures, fuel shortages, poor visibility, and vulnerable side armor all reduced the practical advantage of heavy vehicles. In rough terrain, a lighter, more mobile opponent could choose the terms of engagement. That was exactly what the M36 was designed to do. The phrase "destroyed King Tigers at 2 miles" captures the psychological impact of these encounters. Not every engagement occurred at exactly that distance, and battlefield conditions varied. But the essential truth remains. The M36 gave American crews the ability to engage the heaviest German tanks at ranges that had previously favored the enemy. That changed morale. American tankers, who once joked about the open turret, began requesting the vehicle. Infantrymen took comfort when they heard that M36s were nearby. Commanders placed them where heavy armor was most likely to appear. The same machine, once dismissed as too vulnerable, became one of the most trusted anti-tank weapons in the European theater. The German offensive eventually stalled. Fuel ran low, roads clogged. Allied resistance stiffened. As the weather cleared, aircraft returned to the skies. By January 1945, the Battle of the Bulge had turned into a costly defeat for Germany. Across the battlefield, Burned-out tanks marked the end of the last major German offensive in the West. Among them were Panthers, assault guns, and, in some sectors, the hulks of King Tigers knocked out by mines, artillery, mechanical failure, and direct fire from weapons like the M36. The war continued for several more months. American forces crossed the Rhine crossing and advanced deep into Germany. M36 tank destroyers remained in service, supporting infantry and armor until the final surrender in May 1945. After the war, the M36 served in other conflicts and with allied nations around the world. Its reputation endured because it represented a timeless lesson in military engineering. The best weapon is not always the one with the thickest armor. It is the one designed to solve the real problem. American engineers understood that they could not simply outbuild every enemy tank with more steel. Instead, they focused on firepower, mobility, and practical production. They built a machine that looked vulnerable, but struck with extraordinary force. The soldiers who first saw the M36 noticed the open roof and thin armor. The soldiers who fought in it noticed something else. They noticed that when the 90M gun fired, even the mighty King Tiger was no longer safe. In the frozen forests of Belgium, where visibility was poor and every movement could be fatal, hidden American crews proved that patience and engineering could defeat brute strength. A vehicle mocked as a death trap became a silent hunter. It waited in the snow, almost invisible, and reached out across astonishing distances with lethal accuracy. To German tankers, it seemed to appear from nowhere. To the Americans who depended on it, it was the answer they had been waiting for. The ghost tank was never invincible. Its crews were cold, exposed, and constantly at risk. But when the moment came, when steel met steel across a white valley, the M36 Jackson showed that intelligence and adaptation could overcome even the most feared machine of the Second World War. And after that winter, no one laughed at it again.
If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.